Lately I've been itching to play more Dark Souls. It is my favorite game of all time after all. This time though, I decided to try and spice things up and use a weapon I don't see too often. So today we ask ourselves, can you beat Dark Souls with only a Bonewheel Shield? Because we don't have access to the Bonewheel Shield until we leave the asylum, our journey begins in the catacombs. Down in the bottom of the catacombs is the home to the Bonewheel skeleton. I've always been intrigued by these friendly creatures. Really, I'm more interested in their shields. These peaceful creatures have a 2% chance to drop their shields, and after a few hours of farming, we managed to get not just one, but 2 Bonewheel Shields. The second one won't be needed, it's really just to be symmetrical. I spent whatever souls I got from farming down here in the catacombs to level up my strength and endurance, and I stocked up on some Titanite shards from Vamos. In hindsight, I should have upgraded my shield while I was down here, but I didn't want to be too powerful. Now, we won't be rolling around endlessly and draining stamina and HP and making players run for their lives like these guys do. Unfortunately, the shield isn't all that great. The damage is the first red flag, with the shield only having a D-scaling in strength. The damage is decent in the beginning, but after about halfway it has a hard drop off. Next, the range is nothing to brag about. I have to be really close to the enemies to get any of my attacks off. But on the bright side, when I do the R2 attack on the shield, it attacks 3 times while blocking the first hit from the enemy. Despite it being not all that great, it was really fun to use. With our shield in hand, let's go over a couple of rules really quick. Rules for this run are pretty simple. 1. I can only use the Bonewheel Shield. 2. No cheating or exploits. 3. Beat the game. Easy enough. Since there wasn't much to the berg for us, let's give the weapon a test run on the Taurus Demon. We took the snipers out and began our 1v1 against the Taurus Demon. I went for the punching attack but realized that there was no special animation for landing one. I should have known that the shield didn't have an animation for punching attacks. Thankfully, we did decent damage at 30 strength with an unupgraded weapon. The fight didn't last that long, and with a couple more of the shield's R2 attack, our first boss goes down. As we make our way into the Undead Parish, we ran into the Drake, who immediately did his fire attack that covered the entire bridge. I tried to do a quit out here, but when I loaded back in, I was served well done by the Drake. Now, past the Drake was a piggy I could fire up to get some pork chops, and I used them to trade to Andre to get our shield to +5. How can he resist some juicy pork chops? Anyways, with our newly upgraded weapon, we give the gargoyles a try. With over 30 strength and a +5 shield, we do some decent damage to the gargoyles. I gotta enjoy the good damage output while I can because it's not gonna last. And apparently I'm not gonna last either, as they burn me to a crisp after I failed to heal. I gave them another shot and things went much more smoothly. I took the first gargoyle out before the second one even approached me. Cutting their tail off worked out as I was able to sneak in another attack when they yelled at me. I made light work of the second gargoyle and we ring the first Bell of Awakening. After ringing the first Bell of Awakening, there's a few things we gotta take care of before we progress. With our newly acquired souls, we pump a few points into strength and endurance. And then we head back to Firelink's shrine, and Lotric leaves me no choice but to bully him into giving me his ring. We need his ring to give us a slight boost in stamina. I'm not too worried about the extra equipment load or extra health, as mid-rolls didn't bother me that much on this playthrough, and playing with low health doesn't bother me. Just don't get hit, am I right? Now it's time to take on the Capra Demon. This fight really wasn't too bad, minus a close call with the dogs. Separating them was easy once I got upstairs. One thing I realized after recording though was that I could have blocked any of Capra's attacks. The Bonewheel Shield has the worst stability of the Great Shields, being at 66, but most of Capra's attacks just bounce right off. And with another plunging attack and a few spin to wins, Capra goes down. Going into the depths, our main focus here was to get the large ember. We even saved Larry here to get a pyromancy flame so we could use pyro within later in the run. The only thing left for us in the depths was the gaping dragon. I knew this fight was going to take us a little longer because of their high HP and defense. Gotta love Dark Souls' janky hitboxes. Cut the tail off to avoid being swiped by it when I go into attack, and it was a bit of a long fight, but I take the gaping dragon down and we can move on to Blighttown. Now it's time to take on Quelaag. This is where I noticed the damage of the Bonewheel went down. She wasn't a hard boss, but she's another boss with high defense, and my low damaging weapon made the fight take a lot longer than normal. Nothing to see here really, the entire fight was a game of hit and run, but with a little patience and some dodging of her lava, Spicy Kellogg goes down on our first try. Feeling a little zesty after ringing the second Bell of Awakening, I decided to take out Ceaseless for some extra souls so we could level up a few more times. We robbed his dead sister of her clothes and teach Ceaseless a lesson on gravity. Thanks to Quelaag and Ceaseless's contribution to our souls, we put some points into endurance so we have more stamina for an extra attack with the shield. Make our way out of the swamp, and as I was saying, we make our way out of the swamp get our shield up to +7, and make our way into Sen's Funhouse. Here at the Funhouse, there wasn't much for us to loot except the large Titanite we pick up on our way to the Iron Golem. This fight wasn't too challenging since he's relatively slow, and for the most part his attacks are easy to dodge. Just gotta watch out for those command grabs of his. They have such a slow startup, but have a 100% success rate on me. Eventually we get the Iron Golem into a special stagger animation before he falls, and with just 2 more of the R2 attack of the shield, Iron Golem takes a tumble into the great unknown. Before we hitch a ride with the demons to go to the Sunny City, I use all the large Titanite shards to upgrade our shield to +10. Starting our journey in the Sunny City, I said hello to some old friends, danced up on the rafters with the painting guardians, and did you know that the Sunny City offers the best prostate examinations in all of Lordran? Neat! Seriously though, I've never seen this attack before. I've heard people bait this attack to get them to fall, but I've never seen it connect with anyone before. Really, I blame my controller for jerking me forward. With my prostate check and I was given the green light to proceed, it was time to take on Ornstein and Smo, the first major roadblock of the challenge run. I originally tried to take Smo out. I used the basic strategy of keeping them separated on the pillars, but it was a little difficult to get Ornstein at a safe distance to where he wasn't going to poke me. But once I got Smo down and I moved on to Big Ornstein, I found that my limited range and slow moveset wasn't going to cut it because he was a little more agile than I remember. Every time I was ready to attack, he would jump back, leaving me open. Once I reversed the roles and I took Ornstein down first, the fight became much easier. Smo really just stood there half the time and took it. And after some good RNG, avoiding 2 pancake slams served by Big Smo, and just like that, we're at the halfway point. So up next is Lost Izalith. I usually try to do this area first in any playthrough. There wasn't anything interesting traversing through, and to save you from the eyesore that is this godforsaken place, let's do a quick run through. Asylum Demon 3.0 was easy enough and went down on my first attempt. Centipede Demon showed me some new tricks, as I've never seen a few of these attacks before, like their grab attack or like the fireball they send from the heavens. Lastly, Beta Chaos was exterminated and was sent to join her offsprings in death, and we collect our first soul. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm really disappointed in this next batch of footage. It was only an hour or so of footage, so it's not that bad, I don't think. I must have left my webcam on by accident after a live stream that I did. So as you can see, there's this ugly black box hanging on the side. Oh well, rookie mistake, and I'll remember to make sure it's off next time. Anyway, here's a picture of my dog to cover it up. She's a goddess when it comes to Dark Souls, and how do I know that? She one-shot Soul of Cinder on her first try. Her name's Nola. We'll run through the list of bosses we completed real quick. I squashed the Moonlight Butterfly in just 4 or 5 R2 attacks. I put Sif out of their misery. Took a stroll back into the catacombs, and look, I even got another shield. We wiped Pinwheel from existence, and oh look, Mask of the Mother. And our final destination was Gravelord Nito. I prepared a Divine Bonewheel Shield, but it didn't do me any good, so I let Nito handle his minions while I focused on taking him out instead. I decided on wearing the Chaos Sister robes to avoid being inflicted with Toxic, just in case I got hit by his Gravelord Sword Dance. And with just a few more hits to go, we claim our second Lord Soul. Now onward to the third Lord Soul, Seath. There wasn't much for us in the Duke's archives besides grabbing the Broken Pendant for the DLC later on in the run. After running past the Seafood Festival outside his arena, Seath himself was actually pretty simple. If you hug this little tentacle out on his right side, most of his attacks won't hit you outside of his AoE blast. There were a few close calls where I was almost cursed, but I wasn't too worried. Seath goes down, and the third Lord Soul is ours. Getting closer to the end game, so I figured now would be a good time to pick up the Very Large Ember and start upgrading my shield to +15. And for shits and giggles, I decided to try out the 4 Kings. I definitely wasn't giggling at how easy they were. I mean, just look at that damage. So I decided to spare them for now, and I went to go get Power Within and definitely not forget to use it for the entirety of the run. I head back to the Asylum where I traded Snugly for a Titanite chunk for another upgrade later on, and I took on the Stray Demon. Stray Demon was relatively simple. Get him to do his butt slam, dodge his AoE, and aim for his glutes. He goes down on my first attempt and we collect the Titanite slab. Up next on our list was Gwendolyn. And wait, what's that noise? Alright then. Listen, this fight was so boring. Let's not waste any time with this fight and let's get started with the DLC. Sanctuary Guardian was a lot easier than I expected. We managed to get some really good RNG here with a Sanctuary Guardian with their shockwave attack the entire time. Even when the shockwave did hit us, we still managed to recover in time to get an attack off. First boss of the DLC down. As we make our way to Artorias, we ran into Calamite on the way. I said hello to him and tried to sneak in a few attacks, but the Calamite fan club came in with their pitchforks and put a stop to my plan. We finally made it to Knight Artorias. Now, normally Artorias is a tough fight. He's really good at punishing you when you stop to heal, or when you think it's a good time to attack him. There were a few close calls, especially when he did his continuous flip attack, like how did I not die there? But surprisingly, this fight went pretty smoothly. There were plenty of opportunities for me to attack, and I was even able to stop him from activating his buff, which honestly really surprised me. I don't normally block a lot in a regular playthrough, but it definitely saved me in this fight. After punishing his smelly breath yell, Artorias goes down and we're halfway through the DLC. Manus was up next on our list, but before we did that, we made a stop to get the silver pendant to deflect his magic attacks. I also stopped to pick up the key that unlocks the door to Hawkeye Golf. I got lost on my way out, and this kind cursed Dregling showed me a neat shortcut out of here. Now it was time for Abyss Daddy Manus. I'm already not the best when it comes to fighting Manus, so fighting him with low damaging weapon wasn't easy. He left me with very little breathing room and room for error. Almost every attack was punished with a little bash of my shield or even the R2 attack if I was feeling risky. I'm not all too familiar with how to dodge his magic attacks, so I usually just spam the silver pendant until his magic goes away. Overall, Manus wasn't as difficult as I thought he was going to be. The fight did require a bit more patience than other fights. The damage output wasn't to brag about, and there were only a handful of his attacks that I felt comfortable punishing. It took a little while, but we say goodbye to Daddy, and all that's left in the DLC is Calamite. It's been a while since I fought Calamite, but honestly, he was a little easier than I remember. Oh yeah, I forgot to use Power Within most of the run after I got it. Honestly, I wish I got it a little earlier. It was pretty useful in this fight, and I don't think I would have complained about the damage throughout the run as much. But overall, this fight was rather simple. His fire attacks were easy to avoid thankfully, and made it super easy to punish him. After, stay by his feet, watch out for his stomps, dodge his command grabs, and just like that, Calamite is dead. With the DLC completed, I can finally take on the 4 kings. Going into the fight, I originally thought about armoring up, but I decided to stick with rolling around naked since that's how I was rolling around for most of the run anyways. I tried to avoid having any other king spawn, but I just didn't do damage fast enough. Fortunately, when another king did spawn, they were kind enough to not sneak in any attacks while I slaughtered their own in front of them. For most of the fight though, we ended up trading hits with each other. One of the kings tried to go in for an assist, but just barely missed me. But the 4 kings go down on my first real attempt, and that leaves one boss left, Lord Gwyn. Gwyn did get me a few good times here, but the fight became easier once we started to parry him. Let's not bore you with the whole fight now. It's the same old song and dance. You block the first attack, parry the second, rinse repeat. Gwyn goes down without a problem, and we link the flame. And that's it. You can beat Dark Souls with only a Bonewheel Shield. If you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you so much for watching. This was such a fun challenge run, but I had even more fun editing and putting this video together. If you like what you saw, I would love suggestions on what my next challenge run would be. Thank you again for watching. Y'all take care of yourself and each other, and I'll see you all in the next video.